good morning to all of you. So before we start, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Asif Abdulaziz, and I have been working with this profession around approximately, you can say, 18 years with ENY. All right, I have both local and international experience as well. I have been working with, you can say, Dubai office as well, and now I'm working with EY Karachi office. So the plan is that that we'll try our best that we can have interactive section rather than just I'll be reading for you guys, and it will be quite boring for you as well and for myself. So what I would like to request you all, that whatever questions you have, don't think it that this will be very small question or very silly questions, or should I ask it or not, or it's a very basic level question. I would request you all that please just raise your voice, so at least you can get maximum benefit of this session. Okay, this is something because you have also put in your efforts. We all are here now, the people who have joined online as well. The effort is there. SMP committee has also put their efforts to make sure that you get the maximum benefit of it. So together we can do it. Alone I cannot do it. Alone you cannot do it. Okay, so it's a request to all of you. Okay, so now we move on, and we'll the topic which we'll be covering first, it's basically internal control, design, and effectiveness. So here I would like to just throw one, you can say it's a very simple question, that what you understand from the internal control. So any of you who would like to just raise your voice, to have a start up that what you have an understanding of internal controls. What is internal control? I'm not expecting any, you can say, bookish definition or bookish language from you guys. So anything what you understand, what is internal control? I know this is something which early in the morning I'm asking you for something, which you have to start thinking. So anything what you can think of it, what is internal control? SOPs of the company, yes. That can be SOPs of the company, yes. All right. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Internal controls. Anything. Just speak up. It will be good for you, because you will realize that because sometimes it happens, we know so many things but we never speak. So this is a chance to get something out of it, please. Okay, does it mean that internal control relates to any organization or company only? No. Okay, very good. So controls can be established at home also. It can be in your life also. Okay, it can be in the organization also. It can be outside the world. I mean to say, let's say we talk about traffic, roadside, the controls can be there, right? Okay. What else you can think of? It can be in your, you can say, school life. Yes, that can be. So control, basically internal control, what does it mean? Is basically that something you design to control, I mean to say, to have, or you can say implement the rules, that this is how it should work. Okay, that can also be called control. Okay, so these are very, you can say, layman or very normal examples that we can think of it. All right, so moving forward, today's objective is basically here what we will be discussing, I would say, rather than I will be saying that I'll be presenting, because I would love to be part of you as well, rather than being a presenter myself. All right, so these are the topic, this is the objective, what we'll be learning or we'll be discussing, or we'll be polishing our knowledge. Basically the understanding requirement of ISA 315, ISA 330 in relation to the design and effectiveness of the control. Second would be identify how to appropriately document control attributes and control procedures. Okay, perform tests of control procedures. This is very relevant, very important. So we will try to make sure that we cover normal or practical examples, so at least we can have maximum benefit of it. evaluate test of control findings, okay, and identify and address IT risk. This is one of the key, I would say, the topic of this world now, because we are moving towards digitalizations, okay, data analytics. The IT environments have become more important because the companies are also moving towards, you can say, computer assistant added techniques. They are implementing a kind of a robotic environment, or you can say more into uh, 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 like a digitalization or automation environment. So this has also become a very important for this era now. So what does ISA, I would say ISA 315 requires from an auditor? ISA 315 is very comprehensive. It's very detailed also. So what we have done here, that we have gathered some of the relevant paras of ISA 315, so that at least we can do a refresher. Okay. So what it says basically that what are internal controls basically? Let's discuss that also, that we can have our understanding. Okay. That the process designed, implemented, and maintained by those charged with governance, management, and other personnel to provide reasonable assurance about the control achievement of the entity's objective with regard to reliability of financial reporting. Okay. Does it mean that the internal controls can only be for the financial reporting only? No. Yes. Okay. So it cannot only be for financial reporting. Okay. And efficiency of operation. Okay. The second part, compliance with applicable laws and regulation. Okay. And the control refers any aspect of one or more the component of the internal control. This is basically, you can say, the very precise definition or understanding of internal control that we'll be discussing, I believe, for next couple of hours. So at least we can have a good refresher for that. Now coming back to the requirement of ISA 315, the para 12 states that the auditor shall obtain understanding of internal controls relevant to the audit. Although most control relevant to the audit are likely, you can say, to relate to the financial reporting. Yes, number one, that's what we have discussed. Not all controls that relate to financial reporting are relevant to the audit. It is a matter of auditor's professional judgment. This is the key now. You have to remember that being an auditor, two things are very important in our profession. Is that the professional judgment, number one, and professional skepticism. These two things, if you possess these two things, then you can say, a born auditor, I would say, rather than I would be saying that you are a good auditor. If you want to check, or if you want to analyze that if you're a born auditor or not, you need to check out in your personal life also. I'm not saying that you start auditing or vouching your personal life, but your level of thinking, the way you tackle your normal or routine situations, or taking care of any other things, basically tells you that you have an ability, that you can, or you are a good auditor. Okay. These two things are basically professional judgment. Okay. And secondly is professional skepticism. Okay. We'll try to cover that also in our upcoming sessions. Now, moving forward to para 13, that is nature and extent of understanding of relevant control. So what ISA 315 says, that the nature and extent of understanding of relevant control, when obtaining an understanding of controls that are relevant to the audit, the auditor shall evaluate the design of those controls and determine whether they have been implemented by performing procedure in addition to inquiry of a entity personnel. Okay, now here 2-3 things are there that we have to annotate, or we have to remember, that the inquiry only is not acceptable. Okay, or it will not suffice that we can just do the inquiry and we said, okay, I had a discussion with that person and he said, yeah, everything is fine, don't have to worry about it. It's not that. We do inquiries, but we have to make sure that whatever we have learned or whatever the knowledge has been passed on, we have to vouch it, we have to corroborate it, we have to make sure that we get the sufficient evidence to say that, okay, the inquiries which has been made are either you can say persuasive evidence or you can say corroborative evidence. That also we can discuss. We can touch base on the definition. What does it really means? Okay, so this is really important. Usually what happens that, yes, our profession has in respect, and we do, have to, make sure that we do have we don't have any integrity issue with the clients or with the company we are auditing, basically. So whatever the information we have received, the knowledge which has been passed on by the relevant personnel, we do take it that yes, this is how it works, but I have to myself need to vouch it or verify it or test it. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so now directly I would like to ask you guys that when you are, let's say we are discussing payroll. Okay, this is we are talking about the controls, right? So when we start discussing about the payroll, what we need to do, we firstly we plan that I need to meet a relevant personnel of the company. So you plan a meeting with that person. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm trying to just catch. I'm just trying to make sure that you understand how these things work, so maybe we can discuss in steps also. Okay, so what we do first, we plan, we discuss with the client, and we set up a meeting with the relevant person, right? Okay, then what we do, we go there, we meet the client person who is dealing with the payroll, we get the understanding how the system works, what are the control environment, what are the procedures, what are the steps needs to be the company follows, and how the payroll is disbursed or the payroll is assessed or payroll has been prepared. Okay, you get that knowledge. Okay, just keeping it precise to save time. Then what we do, basically we document that in our process memo, right? That's what we do, right? We document the whole understanding, what we have learned, we have been educated by the, you can say, by the relevant person, right? Okay, then what we do basically, then we plan to make sure what we have understand what we have been educated, basically it's implemented or no. So what we do, we perform walkthroughs. I hope you all are aware of walkthroughs. What are walkthroughs, right? So what is walkthrough basically? Walkthrough is that whatever have been told or what have been you have been educated, you step by step you plan to perform that. Okay, when I say step by step, it means that every step you follow that. Okay, so this is something very important to remember, that internal controls, when you get the understanding of that, the only inquiry that we said, okay, no, I've got the understanding from that person and everything seems fine, so I don't need to do any verification or any walkthroughs or any test of controls. Okay, that's what has been emphasized here, that only inquiries of the personnel is not sufficient. Okay, we have to make sure that we have performed or we have obtained or we have performed such procedures that we get the evidence that everything is working perfectly. Yes. Okay, here we have some, I guess when I asked some questions, they have shared the comments in that. Mohammed Yusuf is saying that please elaborate, is evaluation of design and effectiveness and even testing of control is mandatory for high risk area of audit. Yes, we will cover that in upcoming slide. We have just started, and definitely we are just discussing, we are just touch basing the definition and understanding of internal control. We will surely do that. Thanks for your question. We'll take a note of that. Set of principles established by management to run the business. Okay, I believe that's a response to my question. Okay, thank you so much for raising your questions and commenting in the chat box. All right, so now moving forward, I've already discussed some of the key areas, but definitely we'll cover in detail now. So now the question comes up, then why do we perform test of control? Why there is a requirement or there is a need that we have to Okay, that we need to, that we need to perform tests of controls. Can anyone think of it, please? I'm sure you all know it, but I would like to hear your voice, please. Yes, please. Okay, that can be, yes, that can be one of, because that's aspect of basically a fraud risk. Basically, you can say that there's significant risk attached and the management override of control needs to be checked. That can one of be, yes. What else can be, please? Yes. Did the design controls by the company, let's say, or the management or those charged with governance are basically working effectively or not? Okay, if it's not working effectively or there are some exceptions we are facing, or we say that we cannot rely on control, let's say based on our work perform and all, then these things will change our audit strategy. Okay, this will change what? Our audit strategy. That's a key thing, because at the planning stage, when we go, when we meet clients, and we do planning meeting and we start planning work on, we do the understanding of the business, we perform, entity level understanding of the entity level control, we document that. Okay, after that, when we are, planning to test of control, and what we do, we test them, and we find out that the controls which were established by the company are not operating effectively, let's say, for example, then we change our audit methodology. What we do, we change our strategy. Okay, we plan CRA, combined risk assessment, according to that we are not relying on control, let's say. So what will happen if there is no effective environment? Okay, if the control are not operating effectively, what will happen? We need to perform detailed audit. We need to perform what? Detailed audit. Rather than, if we have an environment where control environment is, it's operating effectively, and the test which we have performed is also, have provided rely on control approach, then what will happen? Definitely it will reduce our sample size. Or audit strategy will be on a control based approach rather than substantive approach. This is a key thing that we have to remember. Okay, and audit is something that you have to plan well. Anyways, in our personal life also, or in anything, what we plan to do it, we need to make sure that we do effective planning for that, rather than we just jump into it and we start doing that. Okay, so planning is key basically. So basically you can say identification, evaluation, and planning to test the control is basically the key thing in audit. If you plan well, definitely your audit will be much smoother, and then you get the maximum benefit of it. What do we include in the design of test of control procedures? Okay, that we can cover also, because these are the questions which has been populated here to just do the brainstorming. Nature of test of control are basically, this is the nature of test of control, that we do inquiry, we do observation, inspection, we do performance, we also do that, we do recalculation as well, and data analysis. So this is the key thing that we have to remember, that then in test of control, we have to make sure that we have at least covered this. So we will be discussing control attribute as well. And then we have, can we perform inquiry alone? So I guess we have already discussed that what ISA 315 requires from us, that auditor shall not only make inquiries, but to perform additional procedures as well. When do we perform test of control procedure? During the audit. Yes, this is the very relevant question and very important question. I would say that, what you think of it? When do we perform test of control in our audit? Yes, at what stage? We have 3 stages, right? Planning, execution, and conclusion. That's what we precisely say is that, right? So can anyone help me out that when we perform test of control procedure during the audit? Yes, both stage. Very good. Thank you. Yes. Who else thinks that both stage? Yes, please. Sorry. At the time of? Yes, we can say that also. But Basically, he's right that at both stages, even I would say 3 stages, even in conclusion also what we do, let's say for an example, just to make sure that you guys are clear that why I'm saying at conclusion stage as well. Let's say we are auditing, we have audited, and let's say we have completed around 90 to 95% of our audit work. All of a sudden you came to know that the company has implemented new system. Okay, let's take an example again for a payroll. Okay, we can. I don't want to get into ERP because maybe you will get confused with the financial reporting or financial closing process. I don't want to make you confused. So let's say you came to know that the payroll process has been changed. All right. Now, when you're auditing, okay, and the payroll is significant account for you because the industry which you are dealing or auditing basically is the service industry. So whatever they have basically is your human resource, is basically is their asset, and that's how they generate the revenue. Okay. Then you came to know that there were that the new system has been implemented. So do you require or do you have to go back and discuss with the management or the relevant person that what was the reason and why this new system has been implemented, or you will say okay, nothing, we don't have to worry about it because we have done our work, so audit is finished? Yes. Do we need to go back and discuss that what's happening? Yes, we do have to, because we need to find out the reason, that what is the reason why the management has planned or felt that they have to change the system. Maybe there can be a bugs, there can be errors, there can be fraudulent activities, there can be other reasons which can impact your audit, which can impact your audit report, basically, I would say. Okay. So these inquiries will also help you to make sure that before signing of audit report, that's the reason why, that's why we perform subsequent events to make sure that before signing of audit report everything is fine, nothing is changed. But yes, most importantly, the first thing is that we have to start at the planning stage. As I said, that you have to do the understanding of business, you have to make sure that what is the environment of entity, to get the understanding of entity level controls, what are the controls established by the, let's say, the higher management or the local management or any other department or those charged with governance or board of directors. Okay. After that, you plan your audit, that how to design, how to evaluate that the controls are effectively operating or not. What is the extent of test of control procedures to perform? We'll cover that also. Okay. All right, this is a typical, you can say, the bookish definition of test of control: an audit procedure designed to evaluate the operating effectiveness in preventing or detecting and correcting material misstatement at the assertion level. Okay. As a 330 para 8 states that that the auditor shall design and perform tests of control to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence as to the operating effectiveness of control if the auditor assessment of risk of material misstatement at assertion level includes an exception that the controls are operating effectively. That is, the auditor's plan to test of operating effectiveness of control in determining the nature, timing, and extent of substantive procedure, or substantive procedure alone cannot provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence at the assertion level. That's what we are discussing. That's what I've discussed with you just now, that only tests of controls that are required, that let's say if we are not relying on control, then definitely will shift to substantive. Okay. But only substantive also is not sufficient. Definitely we need to make sure that the control environment established, why it is not operating effectively. We're going to just leave it like that. Okay, that this is not operating effectively, so just forget it and we just move to substantive procedure. No, it's not that. You have to make sure you have to document that why internal controls on which have been implemented or which has been placed by the higher management, why these controls are not operating effectively. Okay. Then when we identify those, you can say that the reasons why the controls are not operating effectively, where we report that. Can anyone share me where we report that, where we document and report to those charged with governance or higher management? Sorry. Yes, management letter. Okay. In some cases, let's say if the management, let's say ML is not shared, okay, management letter is not shared, then also we put it in our board letters, that we do the communication, because the board letter are also supportive, that because we write it to the board of the company or those charged with governance. So this is really important. This is not that if you find a significant deficiency in the internal control environment of the company, you just say, okay, forget it. Why should we worry? Because I've shifted to my substantive audit procedures. I don't have to worry about that. Because no, this is something you have to raise it to those charged with governance, because that's what their expectation is. Okay, it's not usually what we have seen, that that for a big group or a listed client, or where the client has requested themselves that we would be requiring a management letter, or let's say those deficiencies or those points which can be trigger, or that are creating problems to effectively to get the control operate effectively. Okay, so these are the key points. Being an auditor, we have to make sure that we report that to the higher management or those charged with governance. So in designing and performing test of control, the auditor shall obtain more persuasive audit evidence the greater the reliance the auditor places on the effectiveness of the control. This is very important. Okay, because as I said earlier, that when you have when you have test the controls, and when you have find out that the controls are effective and they are operating effectively, definitely it will give you much more reliance, and you can get the persuasive evidence rather than very little sum or corroborative. Okay, let's say for an example, so far what we have discussed, that let's say if we are doing, let's say we are auditing a company where there is no control established, very minimum controls are there, that voucher is prepared and signed by the, let's say, managing director of the company. In that case, what we will be doing it? Do we need to assess the control environment? We have to, will we plan to design the testing of controls, or we just leave it and we just plan that we will just do it the substantive audit? Yes, anyone can help me with this? Very small company. All right, we are auditing very small company where vouchers are prepared and signed by, you can say, the owner of the company, let's say, to make it more easier. So do we need to at least assess or evaluate or plan or discuss for the internal control, or we said, forget it, man, it's a very small company, let's move on, we do the substantive audit? Yes, he's right, internal controls exist, because there's a control is already there, though it is not, you can say, very I would say highly automated, or you can say very effective control. But yes, control exists, because there is an authority or someone who is there to authorize the voucher, and that's the owner of the company basically. Okay, so in that case also, what we require basically, that we discuss with the management. Okay, we understand from the, let's say, if the finance personnel is involved, we need to understand each and every step how it works, because control always exists. Control is always there, because no one can give the liberty of staff that do whatever you want to do it, don't worry about the money. It's not that. You have to establish, you have to make sure that you build the control, so at least everyone has their own responsibility, and you don't mess up with your operating environment. All right, so moving forward to ISA 330, para 15, the auditor intends to rely on control over a risk. The auditor has determined that there's a significant, an auditor has also determined that it's a significant risk. Okay, the auditor shall test those control in the current period. Okay, what is significant risk? Can anyone think of it, please, and help me out with that? Significant risk. Okay, how many of you are aware of significant risk? Forget about speaking, no problem. At least you can raise your hand, so it will be helpful for me. How many of you are aware of significant risk, or you have heard about significant risk? What is significant risk? Okay. Yes. So would you like to speak for me? Significant risk? Yes, please.
Significant risk is the risk that has the potential to materially misstate the financial statement in
Yes.
area of the including disclosures and their figures to the financial statements.
Very good. Thank you so much. Yes. So that risk which can potentially impact the financial statement, let's say. Okay. Okay. Yes. All right. So moving forward, I'm sure you guys must be, yes. 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 You're right. That's what he is saying, that, you know, the adversely affect and to achieve something.
It may be operational
Yes.
risk or financial risk or
Yes.
maybe you can say that the fraud risk.
Yes, significant risk can be fraud risk as well. Yes, he's right. The best example is now the management override of a control. So revenue is usually presumed to be a significant risk, and that's presumed to be a fraud risk as well, because this is an area where the manipulation can be done. Okay. Let's say if a finance manager or a CFO has a target to achieve some, let's say, targets of revenue, then what he or she will do? Definitely the manipulation in revenue. Okay. So more critical area is revenue for any organization. Okay. So usually what we have seen so far is that the revenue has been considered as a significant risk and also a presumed fraud risk as well. Okay. So moving forward to para 16 of ISA 330, when evaluating the operative effectiveness of control upon which the auditor rely, the auditor shall evaluate whether the misstatement that have been detected by the substantive procedures indicate that the controls are not operating effectively. This is something that, you know, that when you are doing substantive audit and you find out that and evaluate that the misstatement exists, okay, it means that the control environment itself is not operating effectively. If deviation from control upon which the auditor intends to rely are detected, the auditor shall make specific inquiries to understand these matters and their potential consequences, and shall determine whether the tests of control have been performed, provide an appropriate basis of reliance on the control. Number one, that's what we have been discussing this morning. Additional tests of controls are necessary. Let's say if the control, what we have tested, you know, it's not giving you, or you have not achieved the result what you are looking for. So then what you will do? Definitely you'll perform additional testing for that. Okay. You cannot just leave it in the first instance as, okay, the error has occurred, or you find the exception. You said, okay, forget it. The control environment does not exist. Let me tell you very frankly that many of the auditors, you know, they don't like testing internal controls and all. They said, okay, forget it. Let's move to, you know, substantive and do the audit. But literally speaking, honestly, when you plan to test the controls, okay, when you enter the company's internal control environment, you evaluate them, you investigate them, you get education from them, when you learn from them, okay, when you do perform walkthroughs, when you do the test of controls, and when you achieve the result what you are looking for, that effective control environment, and that you can rely on control, you will see that the audit strategy is completely, you know, it's 360-degree change. You have to perform, and you will be performing very less work. And I'm not saying this is the key to less work, but this is giving you the, you can say, the comfort on your work, that, you know, the audit which you have done it, and the report which the partner is signing is basically this. There are no such things which can, you know, stop him to do it. Okay. So please, and now also I believe that after 15th of December 2022, there's a requirement that even if you are doing the substantive audit, then also you have to evaluate the IT environment and the ERP which has been used by the company. You have to assess and evaluate that also. The risk of material misstatement needs to be addressed using substantive procedures. Let's say if you have performed test of controls and you identified that, there's an exception, there's a misstatement is there, then definitely you have to cater that, you have to cover that through substantive procedures as well. Okay. So design attribute of controls. The following questions can assist in understanding the specific design attribute of the control relevant to our audit. Why is the control performed? Okay. Who performs the control? When is the control performed? How does the control operate? How precise and sensitive is the control? How is the control affected by other component of internal control? What evidence supports the performance of the control? Okay, now coming back to that point which I was discussing with you just now, is a walkthrough and process documentation. These are the typical questions, okay, that needs to be in your mind when you are discussing or getting understanding of control environment of any, you can say, any department or any attribute of control. Okay, so you have to make sure that at minimum you should have these questions on your mind. Okay, and these are not, you can say, very strict questions or that by book or you have to ask these questions, but these are the minimum questions that at least we should ask when we meet the owner, process owner. Okay, because let's say we take an example of payroll again. When you are entering into a discussion or a meeting with the payroll representative, definitely you have to ask these questions and you have to keep in your mind as well that whatever the understanding you're getting from them, these can fill your understanding. Then only you can move forward. Okay, how many of you have so far, because I can see different audiences here, mashallah, and there's some senior guys are also here, that how many of you have met the process owner and you have done the documentation of process? I'm sure everybody must have done it. So please raise your hand if you know how we do the process documentation. If not, then I can also explain that to you, because my purpose is here to that you get the maximum benefit. How many of you have met any process owner, not only payroll, any process owner, revenue, purchase, payroll, anything, inventory, let's say. So how many of you in your career also, let's say, because we do have senior guys here as well, in your career also that you have met the client representative and you have done the process understanding? All right, I can see some hands. Yes. Yes, that's great. Okay. Okay. For others, let me explain. Basically, let's say we are auditing. This time we'll take an example of inventory. All right. So we understand that, okay, now you have been given or you have been assigned to, audit the inventory part, let's say. Okay. So what you would be doing at first instance? Because you don't know about the company, all you know that this is the trading or manufacturing company and that's it. Now, what is happening in the department? How the controls are established, how the controls works, what is the operating environment of inventory, let's say the warehouse, how things are moving. So for that, you have to visit the factory, let's say, or a warehouse or a department. You go and you start your discussion with the relevant person, okay, who is taking care, who is the process owner of that, let's say, inventory. Then what you do, you get the understanding from cradle to grave. Okay, how the material is purchased, how it processed, how everything is packed, and how it is shifted to warehouse, how it is dispatched to the customer. Then what you do, you take the samples of document also from them. It's not just what I'm saying. You said yes, very good, very good. I'm just tapping. It's not like that. All right, that's what I was saying. Professional judgment and professional skepticism. These two things are that you can say just like a blood of auditor. Okay, if you are not questioning mind. What is professional skepticism? Is a questioning mind. If you are not a questioning mind, then I'm really sorry to say that you have to struggle a lot. I would not say that you cannot audit or you cannot be an auditor. But if you are not questioning mind, then definitely you have to struggle a lot. And it's not that a shy personality will not be a questioning mind. It's not that. Sometimes people, they are very shy. They don't talk a lot. They're not very socialized. But at work, when the task has been given to them, they do it, they deliver, religiously. Okay. So you have to make sure that you have this, I would say, ability, I would say this talent that you know how to, ask questions. Because when process owner will be telling you a story, in that you have to ask the question. You're gonna just go and say, okay, please tell me the story, how things happen. It's not that. So these are the key takeaways. This is not part of my presentation, but this is something I would love to share with you guys, that these are the key takeaways that you should annotate or you should write it, that these are the key pointers that you have to focus when you are auditing any company. All right, so we do have some practical examples here as well, which are very basic, which are very simple. We have discussed also. Sorry. So design attributes of control, example 1. Okay, let's say, so let me just bring this down. All right, so the finance manager, this is something we are discussing about the bank reconciliation. Okay, this is one of the, you can see the process as well. Can you just move that? Thank you so much for it. So, okay, how many of you know that the bank reconciliation is also a control? Because usually the perception is that the bank reconciliation is a normal thing, that to tie out the bank account with the ledger. But bank reconciliation itself is a control. So to assess that also, when you are, let's say, discussing or documenting or auditing, or you can say getting the knowledge of the cash and bank, I would say, or cash receipts or cash disbursement process, you have to make sure that you have tested bank reconciliations as well. Okay, this is very important. Many of the people, they missed it. They don't test reconciliation. They said it's not my problem because the finance manager signed it. I've put it in my file. Everything is fine. Don't have to worry about it. This is the area where the manipulation is done. The risky areas where the fraud can be done as well. Okay, because the picture which finance manager or any representative of finance department or anyone from the company is showing you, basically that you are accepting that picture. So that's the duty of an auditor, that he or she has to make sure that that we have performed proper testing, or we have obtained the evidence that no such manipulation or fraud risk or any error or fraud exists. This is very important. Cash receipt, cash disbursement is always a risky area, and it needs to be done in very detail. How many of us have an understanding of, let's say, cash pooling or cash anchoring? How many of us have an understanding of this cash pooling or cash anchoring? It's just that, that you withdraw the cash, let's say, okay, and you keep it. It's just that you transfer from one bank account to another, and one bank and then another bank account to another. You keep on transferring into bank account, and the picture is that we need the cash in that bank account because we have to release some payments. So what we did, we transfer from this bank account to that bank account. We said, okay, yes, that makes sense. Good comment. It's not like that. So we will cover that in our cutoff. Remind me that of, because that's not part of my presentation, but definitely I'll share it with you. It's in cutoff next presentation, which I'll be presenting for cutoff. Then we'll discuss that in detail as well. All right. So this is one of the, you can say, control attributes. Okay. The finance manager reviews the bank reconciliation and signs and date to indicate approval. All right. So we have some questions in Zoom as well. Okay, so we have some questions regarding reputational risk also, and regarding ISO 315. Yes, it is revised in 315 is revised, and that's what I've said as well. All right, so the finance manager reviews the bank reconciliation in signs and dates to indicate approval. So this control attribute, the control exists, but do you think this is more, you can say, effective control or stringent control? I would say no. It's basically, yes, the control exists, but it's not very effective, or you can say strong control, I would say. It's just as somebody is bringing the document, you've just seen it and signed it and dated that, okay, I've seen it. So we have other example of a better control, that the finance manager reviews the bank reconciliation on a monthly basis. Evaluate all reconciliation items greater than, let's say, threshold has been set by the management, that PKR 100K, and any unresolved outstanding items from the prior month's reconciliation. The finance manager then signs and dates the reconciliation. So let's say the reconciliation items are coming, but in first situation, nobody was taking care of what the reconciliation items which were appearing in the last month still appearing now as well. Okay, but in the second control attribute, the finance manager is also taking care of the items which were appearing last month as well. Or you can say the old outstanding or our old reconciliation items, why these items are still appearing. Okay, and that's what we have to do as well. When we are auditing it, we have to make sure that the date of the checks, let's say, or the clearing dates are appearing. We have to question that why 3 months old. Sometimes, you know what happens? What is the minimum, or you can say a threshold or a requirement that the check gets stale or it's not acceptable by the bank? 6 months, yes. But when we see the reconciliation, the reconciling item is appearing from last, you can say 2 years, 3 years. When we go and ask them, that the poor guy tried to dodge you and says, yeah, so that the guy, he has not deposited. No, it's not my fault. So now you have to educate him that, sir, this is something that it's already stale now. It's already, you know, this check, if it's presented, will be dishonored because it's more than 6 months past due, right? So you have to understand that also. Now, the best example, you can consider it best. Okay, there can be other control attribute also to make it much better or best. That the finance manager reviews the bank reconciliation on a monthly basis. The finance manager review include checking of a clerical accuracy. Okay, agreeing the amount on the bank reconciliation to the bank statement. Okay, second attribute. The trial balance and the system generated outstanding checklist. The finance manager reviews all reconciling items greater than PKR 100K and any unresolved outstanding items from the prior month's reconciliation. The reconciliation signed and dated indicate approval within 15 days of the previous month. How you feel now? Something is happening, huh? The finance guy is doing something. All right. So these are the things which you have to keep it in your mind when you know auditing, let's say bank reconciliation or any process, that you have to be alert, you have to be vigilant, you have to be a questioning mind at what is happening. Like you said, the 6 months, it's a good thing that you all know that 6 months. All right. So when you go in and auditing, and when you are auditing any company, you should have a basic understanding, basic knowledge, you know, or at least if you're a beginner, let's say for an example, you should discuss with your, let's say, manager, senior manager, partner whom with you're working, right? So you can get the basic knowledge, basic understanding. This is really important. Okay, so now this is example number 2. The CFO reviews and approves the allowance for doubtful account, which is now basically expected credit loss, IFRS 9. Okay, but we are just discussing a journal allowances. Okay, so nothing to worry about that. That's not part of our presentation, that we'll be discussing expected credit loss. So don't worry about that. So the CFO reviews and approves the allowance for doubtful accounts calculation as part of a monthly closing process. Okay, fine. That's only a control, but not very, you can say, effective or smart control. The CFO reviews and approves the allowance for doubtful accounts calculation as part of a monthly closing process by comparing the calculation to the company policy. Okay, we are talking about the specific provision basically, or a general provision, I would say, not a specific provision, to the AR aging and to the specific customer analysis. Okay, that the customer is not paying since long. You can see the buckets and all, and any issues note are resolved by conducting discussion with the preparer, the credit manager, and the VP for sales to ensure all consideration have been addressed. After the discussion, the CFO documents a consideration for each customer and sign off the document. The controls have improved now. Okay. This is the best situation according to the example. So let's count it. The CFO reviews and approve the allowance for doubtful debt calculation. As part of a monthly process, number 1, the review includes the recalculation of allowance based on company policy. All right, comparing the input to all applicable such reports as the AR aging, the outstanding allowance balance, and the specific customer analysis, which is performed by the controller and reviewed in a separate control. So this is important, which is performed by the controller. So we have included one more guy who has already performed something for you, and you are just reviewing that and evaluating according to that. Okay, then discussing with the preparer, the credit manager, and the head of sales. Now the two more guys are involved, okay, to make sure all considerations have been addressed. The discussions covers any customer whose allowance is not based on company policy, and any customer whose age AR is greater than PKR 200K and 90 days, and any other customer the CFO has a questions about. So he is starting, making inquiries and asking questions with the other department as well, head of sales and all. He's not just signing up because he's a CFO, he can make inquiries. Definitely he should make inquiries. All right, after the discussion, the CFO documents in the notes column of the document the consideration for each customer and sign off in the documents to indicate her review. The CFO attach all supporting document to the calculation and files the allowance documents into the month-end binder by the third party of the monthly closing process. These are the very, you can say, generic and a very normal example to just do the brainstorming that how these things work, okay, so that we can also start thinking in such direction that how we can be have a questioning mind. Are we clear with that? Any questions so far? All right, that's great. So we had some practical examples of test of control, which we have already discussed that here as well. So the finance manager reviews the bank reconciliation on a monthly basis. This is the same example which is coming here. So now the control procedures which we will be performing basically. The previous two slides were telling us, the control exists in any company. Okay. So now the procedures which can be very poor is that they obtain the selected bank reconciliation. Why selected bank reconciliation? Is there any requirement that we should, audit 100% of the bank accounts? Or we should not do the audit of, you can say 100% bank accounts or bank reconciliation? We have to do it 100%, right? It's a bank account and the cash and bank area is very significant. That's it. Okay. So we have to audit all the bank accounts. So all the bank reconciliation needs to be tested. Okay. So obtain the selected bank reconciliation. So it's not selected. Okay. And perform inquiries with the finance manager. That's it. So only inquiries will suffice? No, it will not suffice. We have to make sure that we do perform other procedures as well. So betterment is that obtain the bank reconciliation, select it for tested. Okay. Inquire with the finance manager regarding the review performed on the reconciliation. You have increased your, you can say, testing. And the best thing would be, as per the example, okay, you can add on your testing procedure as per, okay, that obtain the bank reconciliation selected for testing and inquire with the finance manager on the review procedure. That's inquiries that how you do it. You get the understanding of that. Inquire of the specific procedure the control owner performed each month. Okay, that's also the understanding. Type of follow-ups that typically occur in the process the control owner performs to resolve any identified issues. So again, I would say these are the very, you can say, generic example. It's not just you said by the book that you have to follow that. It's not that. If you feel that according to the situation that you may ask or may require further evidence, so you should go for it. Rather than saying that, no, it's in my methodology. Let's say if you're working with any firm and you have your approved methodologies and you said, no, it's only written in my methodology. I have to do only 4 steps and forget it. No, it's not that. As I said, if you are not questioning mind, if you're not having professional judgment, if you don't know how to, take care of situation, then you have to struggle. I'm not saying it's a failure. I would say it's a struggle and you have to put more efforts to become a smart auditor. Okay, this is another example we have. Inspect the bank reconciliation and verify the reconciliation item greater than PK 100 were reviewed and unresolved items from a prior month's reconciliation were resolved. Inspect the signature of the financial. So if you must have realized that in the poor criteria, poor examples or poor situation is that we are just viewing it. We're not doing anything. We're saying, oh, signature is there. Okay, fine, no problem. He must have seen it. That's why he has signed it. So I presume that, he has must have, asked the questions also. This is something we have to be very clear that the inquiries only cannot help you. Inspect the bank reconciliation and the tick marks and the notation performed on the document. Verify that the control owner review all reconciliation item greater than 100K. Okay, this is one of the better example. Unresolved items from prior reconciliation. Note resolution made on the recording items and inquire reason for unresolved items. For the current year reconciliation, inspect approval of reconciling by checking signature and date of approval. Okay. This is the best one. Obtain the reconciliation document. Okay, first we obtain that. Then what we need to do? Verify the control was performed. Okay, we check that, okay, this control has been performed or not. As designed with inspection for indication that reviews was performed, which include tick marks, notation on the document. Inspect whether the reviewer clearly states tested the schedule, investigated all reconciliation item greater than 100 PKR, an unresolved item from the prior month reconciliation. Inspect resolution made and supporting documents of reconciliation items and inquire reason for unresolved item for the current period and inspect the approval and signature and date. This is very normal thing that we have to do it. Okay. Now, for example, let's say if you are testing the control of this, let's say for the bank reconciliation itself also. Okay, then what we need to do it, we have to, the bank reconciliation is a monthly control or not. It's a monthly control because in every month and the owner or let's say the finance manager has to tie out the bank balance with the ledger. So he or she has to prepare the bank reconciliation. So let's say if we have a 12 bank reconciliation for a year for one bank of account, okay, then definitely we have to, set up the protocol. Let's say as per the approved policy or approved methodology by your firm, or let's say by ISA also. So you have to at least, check 2 bank reconciliation, okay, for that bank account yearly. That can be quarterly selection also, that can be interim also, that can be year end also, to ensure that the controls are effectively operating effectively. This is really important. Okay. Now, one more questions which I'm just asking for my knowledge is that let's say if I have a reconciliation item and I see that there are 100 odd items appearing in my reconciliation. I'm being an auditor. How many items do I have to test? Can anyone tell me that if 100 items or let's say 50 items appearing in a bank reconciliation, prepared and approved and everything is fine. Now I have to validate the reconciliation or reconciling item. Then what I have to do? How many sample do I have to test? 50 items all? Can anyone think of it? Do I have to test 100%? 100%. Okay. I don't have any threshold. I don't have any materiality. I don't have testing threshold. I don't have any SAD or nominal amount. We do have that because we don't perform 100% audit, right? So for bank reconciliation also, when you are, let's say, performing a reconciliation item, you have to, make sure that you perform within the threshold. Okay. But let's say if all items are above your threshold, then definitely 100%. Okay. You can do that also because that's a big account, which is dealing with the payments of the suppliers and everything. And you see that, okay, the all amounts. So let's say my threshold is 1 million and all items are above 1 million, then I have to do it. Okay. So sometimes over auditing is also a bit risky. So you have to make sure that, you perform according to the methodology. Okay, let me check. I guess we have one question here. Depends upon significance of the outstanding. Yes, you're right. All right, so third example is reperformance of the procedure performed by the finance manager. The betterment can be the the procedure performed by the finance manager, which includes checking the clerical accuracy of the document, agreeing amount from the bank reconciliation. So now I would like to skip this slide because I know we have been discussing this for a long time. I don't want you guys to get bored. Okay. So what we have discussed so far, that whatever the control environment has been established, this is a key takeaway. All right. Whatever the control environment has been established by the higher management or those charged with governance or whoever the responsible person are there, we have to get the understanding of that. Number one, step one, get the understanding, get it documented as a process memo. Okay. If they do have the process memo, take it from them. You don't have to work. Okay. You just discuss with them. If it requires update in your file. We move forward to perform what? Walkthroughs. Okay. You perform walkthrough of what? Control. All right. Then you plan your test of control. Okay. You select the sample size. Okay. You perform the test of control and then you decide it's rely on control or not rely on control. As a friend said, that based on the operating effectiveness of that control. All right, guys. Okay, so this is what we have discussed so far. I will not get into the definition itself, okay, because definitely, mashallah, you all are, well trained, well educated, and you can read it yourself as well. So just to, avoid that. So the message is basically that inquiry alone is not sufficient, okay, to test the operating effectiveness of control. Okay, why this repeatedly? We are discussing this. Why it is important that usually what happens that we go and we make inquiries and we are done. We are saying, okay, everything is fine, nothing to worry about. And when we ask you that where is the evidence, where is the document, where is the voucher, we said, no, I haven't taken anything. I have not performed any procedures rather than only making inquiries. All right. So you have to make sure that only inquiries are not acceptable. It's not sufficient, I would say. All right. One more thing is that when you're making inquiry, what you have to be? You have to be questioning mind. Yes, you're right. You have to be questioning mind, because it's just like that you are having a discussion with your friend. You keep on asking, then what happened? Then what happened? Oh, this happened. Okay, this happened. This is how it works. Okay, the process owner is a storyteller. Okay, but the thing is that you are the one who should ask the questions. Let's say if this thing happened, then what you guys will do? Oh, we'll do this. I forgot to tell you that we have this process also. Oh, okay, thank you so much. Okay. So let's say if this process failed, then what you do? We don't have any contingency plan. Oh, okay. Then you got the management letter point, or the points that you should get that your control can also be much better. Okay. Because usually what happened that you try to implement best practices. Okay. It's not that you said that this is by book, you have to do that. No, it's not that. Okay. When the management letter points are also given, it's also a best practices. All right, let's discuss about the interim period. How many of you are aware of the interim period? Let's say it can be somewhere September, it can be November also. Okay. Let's say for a big group audit, what we do. I'm a finance manager. I'm a very, very strict guy with and very, much concerned about my deadlines because I want to make my shareholders happy. So what I do, I said, listen, man, okay, my books will be closed by 7th of January. My year end is financial year end, basically 31st of December, let's say. I said my books will be closed on 7th of January and I need the report on 4th of February. So how you feel? And you haven't done anything so far. You said, yes, that can be done, but definitely we need some more time. Let's say, for an example, or you start thinking about the resources. You said, okay, let's say if it's a big group, we said, okay, we can just, we can put the team of 15 people and we can get it done. Okay, so you start thinking. So let's say this message was given to you on 25th of December. So you feel bad. You said this is not the right time to convey your deadline. So you either try to convince let's say the finance manager or CFO, or you push yourself and you arrange such resources that this work can be done. So, but both situation is basically it's not that easy to tackle. But let's say I have informed you my deadline somewhere in September. I said that, see, we have a deadline that we need to get the report signed by 4th of February, let's say. So what you will do, being a manager, being a partner, being a director, you will plan your resource, you'll plan that audit. You said, okay, we can do it, nothing to worry about it. Thank you so much, pitching it at the right time and sharing with it the right timelines. We will be planning and we are planning to perform interim audit. We'll perform, let's say, September or November audit first. So what we usually do, we perform the P&L testing. Planning and test of control and everything is done in November, let's say. Okay, or you can say first week of December. So what you do, you get the sufficient time to plan your audit, you do the planning. All right. Then what you do, you do the test of controls. All right. Then what you do, you jump into the profit and loss account, because that's the number which will not change because balance sheet is as of. So definitely the numbers will change. And you have to audit the balance sheet of December rather than of November, because we need to issue an audit report on December balances. All right. So what you will do, we will plan 9 months or 11 months audit, let's say. Okay. We'll finish the P&L first. Okay. We'll stop it. Then we'll resume our audit on, let's say, somewhere in first week of January, when the December financial statements are about to close. As soon as you get the financials from the draft financials from the management, or let's say 7th of January, as promised, what you do, you start performing your year-end procedures. So for P&L, you have to do 1 month, roll forward. Okay. Are you connecting with me? I'm sure you guys are connected now. All right. So I have to, in P&L, I have to do only 1 month, roll forward. So my P&L is locked now. All right. Moving back to balance sheet, what we will be doing in the last week of December, we'll send out all the bank confirmations, lawyer confirmation, tax confirmation, creditors confirmation, debtors confirmation, or any related party confirmation which we require. All right. So everything is planned. Everything is moving smoothly. So this is what basically the whole scenario now. Now coming back to this, so at least you can understand what we are trying to say here. So using audit evidence obtained during an interim period. Okay, so we have done that. Now what happened that you have performed tests of controls. All right, let's take an example of revenue. Okay, you have tested the control of revenue. Okay, let's say you have planned to test 25 samples. Okay, just talking about test of control, not substantive. All right, that depends upon the sample size and everything and the methodology. That's a different part that would be covered, I believe, in your next, next week. Substantive audit procedure that will cover in that. But focusing on tests of controls. Now, what you have noticed in November, you have done the test of control. But what about the 1 month? December, that also need to be done. So what you do, you go to the relevant personnel or the process owner of the revenue. You discuss with him or her. Okay, this is the process. Is there any change? She says no. He says no. All right, fine, good. Then what you do, you have to perform walkthrough again. Why I have to do walkthrough again? Can anyone think of it? We have just discussed 2 slides back. Why we need to perform walkthrough again? Think of it. It's very easy. Okay, let me help you out. We need to do walkthrough again because we just made the inquiry. So inquiry itself is not sufficient. All right, guys. So inquiry itself is not sufficient. So we have to perform let's say whatever story I have told you, I'm saying, okay, everything is fine. What you will do, you perform the walkthrough. Okay. So walkthrough is basically what? Step by step, you perform the same thing which has been performed or which has been told to you, to validate that whatever I have been told by the process owner that exists. Okay. Then what we are required to do now? Now we are left with 1 month. That is December. All right. So what I'll do, I'll take the population of December. I select my sample based on your methodology, or you can say we have planned to test 25. We have already tested 23. We include 2 more samples in our testing sheet, and we perform the tests of control. Are we clear with that now? What I'm trying to do, guys, that I'm just trying to create a file in your mind. Okay, I want to get it synced with you, and I want you to get synced with me. So at least we both can feel that, okay, what is happening. All right. So any questions so far? Are we clear with everything? Okay. So basically these are, you can say, control not effective. These could be either control exceptions or a value addition ideas, as I said earlier. Okay. It can be exception or it can be value addition ideas, because we recommend or we go for a best practices rather than, saying something, this is by books that you have to follow. That's not that. Any company can have any control, whatever or however they feel like. It's up to them. All right. So now control exception. So this is basically you can say a kind of a discussion chart. Okay. You can amend that also according to your requirement or how you feel it. But this is something we find it best. So we just place it here. Is that determine if the control exception is a systematic or random. Understand the nature cause of the exception. Okay. This is very important. Let's say, for an example, why I'm giving you a practical example, so at least you can have a better understanding, because that helps you a lot. Let's say, for example, you have tested a revenue, or you're performing test of control of revenue, and you found out that there are exceptions are appearing. The sales recording is not properly done. It's not properly approved or something like that. Or you find out that the finance manager itself is preparing the voucher. He's also the one who is posting it. Okay, he's the one who is preparing the financial statement also. So there's a big risk involved. All right. So in that situation, what will happen? So you have to understand the nature and cause of exception. This is really important. Okay. If you don't understand what is the nature of exception and how it has occurred, you have to understand the cause. Cause I've already shared with you that the finance manager is doing everything. Though we do have other persons in finance department, but the finance manager has said, no, this is very risky area. This is very technical. You cannot handle it. Let me do it. Or there's always a fear that, if these kind of a thing is taken care by the other staff, then I may lose my job or I will not get the promotion. This can also be one of the reasons. Or this can be that the finance manager perks or the bonus is attached with the revenue. This is also very dangerous, that I will start manipulating. I'll try to, book the sales of the next year in this year, or let's say I'll try to shift the sales which are also not realized or crystallized, or it's not approved, or the customer has not confirmed the order, but still I'm booking the sales based on only one email, which doesn't say that the sale has been approved or agreed with the customer. All right. So these can be a typical example of nature and causes. Did management design of the control anticipated occasional exceptions? And did our test anticipated it? What can be occasional exception? Let's say, for an example, you are auditing inventory, let's say, for an example, okay? And you just found out that there are some provisions appearing in the books, and you have never seen those such provision in your, let's say, past history of the audit. So this is basically something which happened because of something. Let's say there was a fire, there was a damage, there was obsolescence, there was expiry was there, which you felt that this should not happen, but this is something very occasional happening, that is acceptable. And that's it. Basically, you can say that if you have understanding of the business, then you can create your own expectation also that this kind of a nature of business, that's a perishable goods of fruits market, you can say vegetable and all, you do presume and you assume and you do, expect that there can be, the goods can get rust, you can say rotten or something like that. The expectation needs to be there in the back of the mind. That's the reason why you have to get the better understanding of the business of the entity which you are auditing. Okay. Can the cause of the exception be isolated to to a subsection of the population? Yes, that can be, because if you, let's say the population, you keep on digging out and find out the exceptions are coming in. Is the control exception caused by an underlying error? Just error can be also identified, can be a reason for the exception. When a control exception is noted in a representative sample, we generally cannot dismiss it as a random occurrence. Now, this is important. Let's say in a representative sample, you find out an exception. You picked up the another sample, you find out the exception. Then you picked up, you said, okay, forget it. I don't want to test more. These are all errors, forget it. Everything is fine, so let's rely on control. It's not that. Because when you find out that there is an exception and you change your sample size, and you picked another sample and you find the exception, then definitely you have to dig out and you have to drill down and you have to go in depth and need to find out the cause of that, because that's not basically, you can say, occasional or random sample, random, you can say, exception. That's something fishy is happening, or something, there's a control breach, you can say. Rather than being very investigative, you have to make sure that why this is causing the, you can say, breach of control, or the controls are not operating effectively. So let's discuss this. Do we have persuasive evidence that the control exception is random? Let's say yes. Okay, moving to the right side. We start with the right side first. Okay, we said yes. Okay, the random control exception, we said yes. Extend the sample size of what we have discussed so far, and test compensating control. All right. Let's say for an example. Let's say for an example that we just need to put one quantity only in the revenue section. All right. And the system, you need to put quantity, the rates are already fixed. You get the value. All right. But you find out that the configuration, there is a problem in that. The configuration is not corrected. IT is not supportive, because when you're putting the quantity, is giving you the wrong calculation. All right. So this is something we are saying, that test compensating controls. All right. So we need to find out that how we can test, compensating control, to find out that we can get reliance on the report which has been generated by the company. So let's say we extend the sample size and no further exceptions were found. Okay, we are the right side, second line, second last line. All right, box. No further exception were found, then we are fine. All right, nothing to worry about it. We said we can rely on control. But let's say, for God forbid, that the further exceptions are appearing. Okay, then this is basically that we need to go to the not rely on control, because we cannot rely on control because the exception just keep appearing. All right, are we clear here? Okay, any questions so far, please? Because I believe this is the end of the session now. So I would like to request you all that if you have any concern, any questions, please raise your hand or raise your voice. I would love to hear from you guys, please. All right. Perfect. Okay, I'll do that for you. Any other question, please? Yes.
Sir, how can we differentiate between the anomaly and the normal exception? And what are the treatment in audit, their treatment?
Well, what I understand, basically what you're saying, that an error and exception, right? Or anomaly and exceptions. All right. Okay. So what do you think of it? Can you just give me any example or a process you would like to hear from us? Any process, or let's say inventory or revenue or something like that, or any example you want to create it, you do it that, and I can reply on that also.
Example is just like of recording sales.
Okay.
Like somewhere I have read that when there is an event that can be happened at any time, but not with certainty, like power failure or anything else. Like,
Well,
so it is being assumed that an anomaly there.
Well, basically, see, the thing is that, it's more into cutoff, which you were saying at the first part. Second part is more into operational thing. Okay. Failure of something like that. But The best example can be, let's say the sale has been recorded without, you can say an approval, number one. The sale has been recorded without the proper supporting document. Just one email, please record the sale of 1 million. And that email was sent by a CFO or a financial controller of the company. And the poor me, let's say I'm a assistant guy who is doing the posting. I said, okay, the boss have said it, so I have to do it, you know. So these kind of things are exceptions basically, which is not normally you see it, because all the sales needs to be properly documented from cradle to grave. That's what we are saying, that you understand the process from the process owner, how the revenue works, you know, how the revenue process works. You do testing just because of that. Because if you have done the test of control, see the thing is that you have to understand the sequence first. Okay. So if you have done test of controls and you have found it that no exceptions are there, it means you can rely on the other, let's say the substantive part, that you get the comfort that you reduce the sample size and you start performing the substantive. Because in test of control, you're not just saying that this is a sample and you said, okay, trace from the bank statement and check to the GL and travel. No, you have to do it from cradle to grave. You have to make sure the requisition was received, purchase order was sent by the customer, you know, and it was properly processed, the goods were available, goods for inventory was out, everything. You have to make sure each step. That's why I was telling you that if you have done interim audit, let's say, you have to again perform walkthrough just to validate that this process exists. There is no change in that process. First instance, when we are doing interim audit, we check this, the process which has been told by the process owner, we validate that. But when we are doing, let's say, hard close after the interim audit, when we are doing year-end audit, we have to revalidate that there are no change in the process which was told earlier and now as well. Okay, so this is something exception you can say. I hope I have answered your question. Thank you. So here we have one request that we should discuss about the auditing revenue. So I'll cover test of control part and touch base on substantive, because definitely the next week you will be hearing from next presenter regarding the substantive audit as well, substantive procedures. So as I said, I would try to get into step for you guys. You can note that if you want to. Step number one, you get the understanding of the business. This is really important. Honestly speaking, this is very important, and this is the key part, that you understand how the business run and what the nature of the business. Okay, usually what happened, we go said, okay, I'm an auditor, and you go and sit and said, okay, I want to meet revenue guy. Okay, you go and meet the revenue guy, but you don't know what products they are selling. You have not Googled it. You have not learned it. You have not discussed with the higher management. You have not attended any meeting. So understanding of the business of the client is very, very important. All right. Secondly, you plan your meeting. Okay, when you get the understanding of the business, you plan the meeting with the process owner of the revenue. Here we are discussing only revenue. So in that meeting, you understand the whole process, how the revenue cycle works. All right. But in that, you're not just listening to the story, but you have to be questioning mind. Yes, this is a key point. Okay, this is a key takeaway. I would request all of you that this is a key takeaway of my presentation, that the questioning mind and professional judgment, these two things you have to remember in your professional career. Okay. And it's a suggestion. It's not an advice also. It's a suggestion basically. So, all right. So moving forward, we understand the process. We document that. We do the questions. Okay. We revalidate that. Then we will perform what? Walkthrough. Okay. Walkthrough of what? Control. Walkthrough of what? Control environment. Here I would like to emphasize one thing. That one is the control environment. Another thing is the control which has been established by the management. The best example can be a roadside. There's a road is going on. There's a path that you have to, let's say you have to go to Clifton, you have to follow this road. But there are signals appearing on those roads, or that road basically. So those signals are what? These are control. All right. So when you are doing walkthrough, you have to touch base the control environment, the track also, and then controls as well. It's not just that you go and say, okay, there's a control, the guy is looking into it, one is verifying it, one is, signing it. It's not just like that. Okay, so you have to remember these two things also. The control environment and controls which has been established by the management. Once the walkthrough is done, you plan your test of controls. Okay, you plan your sample size based on your audit methodology or your firm's methodology, that how many sample size should be. Okay, or based on your professional judgment as well. You can do that as well, because you have a better understanding of the process, you have the better understanding of the industry. So you can plan according to that as well. Let's say if you have not defined any, let's say, audit methodology that this much should be the sample size, but you're saying that, okay, based on the industry, based on the risk, based on the size of the company, you can use a professional judgment, then you go for it. But here I'm picking up 25 sample of test of control that I'll be testing for the revenue cycle. All right. Now the question arises that I have a different stream of revenue. I don't have only one stream. I'm providing good and services, good also, services also, consultancy also. You're getting my point. So I have 4 or 5 services. So I need to make sure that, I cover all the services, all the revenue stream, rather than just picking up the numbers and saying that, okay, this is the total population and I have, selected. And then I came to know that only one stream is covered. Okay. So you have to plan well. All right. So let's say I've picked 25 sample of a revenue. All right. And I've started testing my, whatever the understanding has been given to me, I have make it as a, you can say, legend, or you can say specific task or test of controls, and you make sure that all are operating effectively. And based on that, once I've completed my test of control sheet, let's say, or done the test of control procedures, then I plan, and then I say, then I conclude that controls are effective or not, or I can rely on control or not. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Basically, walkthrough is that, that, as I said, is a control environment, and there's a control established in that control environment. So in walkthrough, whatever the process owner is performing, you do step by step exactly. Let's say the acquisition form has been given, has been forwarded to, let's say, to the sales department. Sales departments check that requisition form, that the pay order is attached or not. So in that you perform, that's what is called walkthrough, that you do exactly the process owner has performed. But in test of control, what you do, you establish the control attribute, you check only the control attribute thing, that okay, this control exists or not. Let's say, for example, I'm not worried about the requisition was raised or not, because walkthrough is already done. What I'm seeing that, okay, requisition form is attached to that supporting document, and it has been reviewed by someone or signed by someone. So that's a specific task relevant to that control. It's not, I'm not testing the control environment when doing test of controls. So that's basically, that's how you can differentiate between these two. Yes, sir. Then you don't go for test of control. It's a good question. Yes. Because the thing is that, yes, then you have to plan substantive. Yes. But let's say if you find out that, the controls are not, I would say the control does not exist at the first instance. Because if you, let's say I'm a very tricky finance guy, and you came to me and said, yeah, you don't have to worry, ours, the boss is very strict. He doesn't allow us to do, anything. You said, yeah, I can see that, the things are very good here. So how it works, so I'm telling you the fake process. And you get impressed, and you said, that's the reason why it says that only inquiry is not sufficient. Right? As a 330 says, that inquiry is not sufficient. Only inquiry is not sufficient. You have to perform other procedures as well. So when you start your walkthrough test, then you find out nothing is there. So definitely it means the control does not exist. So you cannot go for control reliance approach. But let's say the control exists, but there was some, you can say, breach or loops, you can say, that you found out that it's not there, basically. Then it's a compensating, you can do the compensating testing, and you can validate that also. Let's say the guy was saying that I sent the email to that person and he then received the emails and then he print out and he signed it. But you said there was no email, only paper was there. So that control is missing. The communication control is missing basically, that the email was not sent, but the hard copy was on his desk. You can see that. Because sometimes people, they get irritated. I don't have time, the printer is not working. You send me email, then I have to print it. It's this and that and blah, blah, blah. So what the other guy says, please, can you send your peon to give me that paper? I'll sign it and I'll put it in the file. All right. Yes, sir. Sir, if you're moving to substantive testing, then definitely it will increase your sample size. Tests of control facilitate you, helps you to reduce the sample size. And when you are setting up your audit strategy and combined risk assessment, it helps you to reduce inherent risk and it moderates and minimize that.
But it's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory yet. See, the thing is that as I said earlier, it's totally based on you, that how you want to design or your audit strategy.
But if I am satisfied with the walkthrough tests and after discussions and inquiries, so can I design substantive procedures, including testing the controls?
Yes, you can do that, but as I said, that it will not reduce.
Say
the sample
I
size.
am going to verify the sales.
Yes,
So I am satisfied with this controls over sales.
yes,
And I design my substantive procedures, and I also do verification of invoices with
yeah,
good dispatch notes and all
Yeah.
these things
Yeah.
as a part of substantive procedures,
yes,
not as tests of controls.
yes.
So can we do that?
Yes, you can do that, but when we talk about engagement economics, when you talk about efficiency and effectiveness, then that will impact that. Because let's say if I've done tests of control, okay, I'm satisfied with that. I can reduce my sample size when I'm doing substantive audit. Here, usually what happens that revenue people usually test 100%. Then there is no, I would say, benefit of testing control. You're getting my point. So this is how you plan your audit strategy, that, okay, my audit strategy will be that I will get the engagement economics, better margin on that. Because definitely you're not just working for, welfare. When you are doing audit, you get the clients, you earn also something. So you have to do the better economics also, engagement economics as well, number one. Then you plan in that way that you can meet the deadline of the client. As I gave example of, let's say that 7th of January, I have been given a financial statement and that's a big group audit. And somebody has asked me that you have to deliver on 4th of February, you have to give the signed report by that date. I don't have that much time. So if I perform tests of controls and I can reduce my sample size, I can move forward. So this is basically efficiency and effectiveness. Basically, that's how you plan. But yes, you are right. It's not mandatory that you compulsory that you have to do tests of control. It's not that. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Any more questions?
I have a question from
Yes.
one of the earlier slides.
Yes.
Can you please give some examples of the controls which are relevant related to the financial reporting, but are not relevant for audit?
Not relevant for audit.
Yeah, this was mentioned in some of the earlier slides.
Okay. Yes, FSCP, yes, financial statement closing process. Okay. Financial statement closing process. Okay. So what you understand by financial statement closing process is that that everything is done. Okay. All the entries have been made. Now you are near to close the financial statement. You have to log the trial balance, let's say, for example. So you have to perform certain control for that. Let's say the TB is already done. I'm not saying it's logged, but all the entries and posting have been done. But certain controls need to be followed that you get the approval for that. Chart of accounts has been reviewed by the representative, okay, or the financial controller or the CFO and all. Okay. The open adjustment has been, has been signed off. All the adjustment made by the, let's say, finance manager or assistant staff has been also signed off. These are the control attributes to finalize something, but it will not have any impact on the financial statement. Are you getting my point? So this is you can say the best example I can give you for the financial statement closing process.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sir, control environment is also tested at the time of or assessed at the time of acceptance or continuous client engagement. And if the predecessor auditor or we have the assessment that the client has a significant deficiency in internal control, or the predecessor auditor has raised a significant issues after auditing and issuing the financial statement, he has raised the significant concern regarding the control environment, integrity of management, then what are the procedures, what are the measures available to the auditor, because I am talking about an MNC OMC, which is recently has a case study regarding this.
Then this will be a risky account. And at the first instance, it's a firm's decision or the partner decision to accept it or not, first of all. Because the problems which you are telling me, integrity. So if there's integrity issues, definitely you cannot work with that company for sure. So yes, at the time of client acceptance or engagement acceptance, we do have to evaluate all this control environment, the shareholders, the profile of the shareholders. Let's say if the profile is not good, or they have been, in any criminal offense or something like that, definitely you would not love to work with those such client, So this is basically, I would say, it's more like a firm's decision, it's a partner's decision if he or she would love to work with them or not. Yes, sir. Any other question? All right, that's great. I'm really happy that at least you guys have asked me so many questions. Thank you so much. But still, I was expecting more questions from your side, but it's fair enough, no problem. All right, so moving forward. So okay, this is a basic, you can say, background. We've already discussed that somewhere in our discussion point as well regarding the IT environment and control. This is something more relevant to the automation, as I gave you one example of revenue, that the quantity, you just need to put the quantity, the price is fixed. The PEG's example is OMCs here in Pakistan also. The fortnightly, we receive a notification from OGRA, all right? The price, petrol price are logged. All you need to do is just put the quantity purchased by the customer and you get the revenue number in that. Okay, so these are the basically expect that the control environment exists, but the risk also associated has been mentioned here. Let's say number one, data. The data processed by the IT application from which the IP is produced. What is IPE? It's information produced by entity. Okay, it's produced, it's not complete or accurate. Okay, the system which is giving you the data is not accurate. Okay, the data extracted from the IT application into the IP is not the intent data, or it's not complete. Let's say you request for receivable aging. Okay, you requested from the finance manager, can you please provide me the receivable aging? The aging which has been given to you was not that, what you were looking for basically. It says only 1 to 300 and that's it. And the system cannot give you 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 90 to 120 buckets. So all you have to do is to do the manual testing of that aging. Moving forward, the user entered parameters are inappropriate. As I said, that you put the wrong percentage, let's say depreciation calculation. The ERP has a functionality that it can calculate the depreciation itself. So what you do, you have to put the percentages on that, and you see that the parameters are not correct. Computations or categorization performed in the creation of the IP are inaccurate. The same example, the data output from the application to the EUC tool is lost in the transfer. Let's say the data migration, and let's say you have two softwares. One is capturing the purchase data, one is capturing the sale data, and you have one ERP, that's Oracle or SAP. But when you run the push report or a query from that extraction of the report is not happening. So it's a failure of that transmission basically. Information added or changed, including new computation and categorization. Let's say the configuration has been changed by someone. Let's say IT person have changed the configuration, but was not informed to the finance department or the person who was responsible for the input of the parameter. So it can also, it's a big risk of that as well. And it's incomplete, inaccurate, and inappropriate. So these are the basically few risks which has been mentioned here, whether when you are, auditing the company, that can be IT risk as well, that the report which you are getting is not correct. Let's say the data is not complete. So that's why it's really important that whatever the information has been given by the management of the company, you have to validate that. You have to check the mathematical accuracy, you have checked the closing balance, let's say. You have to make sure it's tie up with the GL, it ties with the trial balance as well. So this is really important that we have to perform the validation on that. And the reports needs to be printed in front of you. If it's a system generated, then it's okay. But let's say usually what happens that we request client that can you please give me the sales report, what he does that extract it to the Excel and send it to you. So now what he has extracted or exported to Excel, that can also be, the error can also happen, the manipulation can happen. All right, so you need to validate that with the system report by yourself. All right, you need to check the mathematical accuracy of that report as well. So now what is required basically, as we have discussed, that we have to be a questioning mind. That was first part, professional skepticism and professional judgment. But this is also very important now. We're making a mental model behavior shift. Okay. The best example is that when we were kids, our thinking style was very different. We grow up, our thinking style changed. We grow up, our living style changed, our status changed, profile changed, everything changed. We become more mature. What happened that your talks are also mature. When you become partner or director or senior managers, you stick to the relevant point rather than discussing which is irrelevant. All right. So this mental model shift is very important. So you have to be like reactive, you have to be now proactive. Okay. Reactive is what? That you get into a situation, you say, oh, now what I have to do now? All right. But you proactive is what? You get ready for the situation because you know it will rain. Okay. But you knew it that it will rain, but you were waiting that it will rain or not. Okay. I'm just giving you a common example to make sure that you understand properly. Okay. But when you see that the Google says that it will rain, you become proactive. Okay. A dollar prices will increase, you'll become proactive rather than you sleep and said, okay, when the dollar price will increase, I'll see I have to buy goods or not. Are getting my point? Responsive to ownership. So this is also very important that you own what you have been doing it. Rather than giving an explanation and justification that no, this is not, doesn't belong to me and this not that and blah, blah, blah. You have to make sure that you get the ownership of that. Comprehending to evaluating. This is really important. Okay. This is really important that you just not keep on discussing or, reviewing it, but you have to have the ability to evaluate it as well. Task centric to client centric. I'm responsible for payroll. I don't care what's happening. No, it's that we work as a team. Okay, we work as a team. Over the cup of coffee or lunch break or having a small meeting discussions, we do understand what's happening in the client. Okay, we need to have understanding of all issues rather than talking about only payroll. All right. Individual to team. Okay, you just not be that, okay, I'm the one who's going to do it. It's not that. It's a teamwork that I have to do it. So what I've explained so far is already there now. So from being reactive in responding to the team and completing tasks to being proactive in working with the team and completing the task. From being responsive to your work environment to taking ownership of your work and career. Comprehending to evaluating, from comprehending and completing a task to understanding the purpose and evaluating the implication of the task. It's not just that you complete the task and you're not, evaluating what will be the implication. You have to evaluate and you have to find out what will be the implication of that. Task centric to client centric. From doing work to complete a task to do work to build client relationship while maintaining professional skepticism. This is really important. I would like to end up here because let me just move with that also. Individual to team, from performing as an individual to acting, contributing as a team and the success of engagement. For this, I have to come back. When it says client relationship and professional skepticism, this is really important, especially at the age when you are senior or let's say assistant staff or you are manager on the job. When you have built up a relationship with the client, keeping a professional skepticism, okay, there is nothing is compromised, okay. This will help you that, in your career as well. And this will definitely, at some point of time, what will happen, the finance manager, which you are dealing with now, after some time, let's say 5-6 years, he'll become a CFO of any company. So definitely it will help you to get your profiling strong. We usually said, yeah, forget it now. We have to finish this client in 1 week. I don't have to get a relationship with this. No, but our profession says, our ethics says, it's a requirement that we should have a professional relationship with our client. That's what the respect is there. Okay, that's how we know we have to treat professionals. So that's all from my side. And thank you so much for participating. And if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask in other session also.